posted below the video, so if you're interested in it, you can make it as well.
So good.
Okay, so first we need to make the chia egg because it takes a few minutes to get like goopy. So what you do, you get some chia seeds, which we have in this jar, and in like a mortar and pestle and kind of grind them up. And then you put them in a little jar with some water and you let it sit until it gets really goopy like an egg. The recipe that I'm following makes a whole pumpkin pie, but since the pandemic's going on and we're not entertaining a bunch of people, we're gonna cut it in, divided by 3. So we're just gonna make like 2 or 3 mini pumpkin pies in creme brulee ramekins. So if you wanna make a full pumpkin pie, just follow the recipe and don't pay attention to the amounts that I'm mixing. Okay, so for the chia egg, mix together 1 tablespoon of ground chia seeds and 2.5 tablespoons of water, and you let it sit for 5 to 15 minutes until it gets goopy. Here's our water for the chia egg, measured out. I've got the chia seeds in the mortar and pestle, and I'm just going to grind it up with this. Okay, I think this is good. Let's see. So you can see they're kind of like broken up in there. It's not in powder, but they're also not like perfect little round chia seeds. They're kind of broken up a bit. So now you just put it in the water here. That. See, chia seeds in the water, and then just let it sit for like 5 to 15 minutes. Okay, so the next part of the crust is mixing together almond flour, coconut sugar, some salt, some coconut oil, and this chia egg. And that makes the crust. This pie is different. You don't bake the pie crust first. You just put your crust in the pan and then you put the filling in and then you bake it all together once. You don't bake the crust separate before you add the filling. So this recipe says that you can use an electric mixer or you can use a food processor to mix up the crust, or you can just do it with, you know, a spoon and a bowl in your arm. I'm gonna try and use the KitchenAid mixer here. We need 2 cups of almond flour. We're only going to use about 66 grams. Here is the almond meal. It's like a flour made of almonds ground up. Next, we're supposed to use 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar. We're going to use a little over 1/2 coconut sugar. This is what we're using. Let's see it on the inside. Use a little pinch of salt. You're only supposed to use a 1/4 teaspoon in the full recipe. Coconut oil here. I'm gonna melt it in the microwave before I put it in. Cancel. Oh, that's really hot. Okay. Liquid coconut oil, it's piping hot. Okay, so we're gonna check on our chia egg. How it looks. Oh yeah. It actually needs a tiny bit more water. Okay, so this is what the chia egg looks like after sitting for, let's say 15 minutes. It's really thick. I actually need to add a little bit of water to this to thin it out just a little bit. We want it to be goopy, but this is just too thick. Okay. Okay, you can see it's getting goopier now. that. Add a little more water. So this looks really good. Now, just mixing. See?
Oh yeah.
That's, you see, it looks like an egg. That's how you want it. Okay, we only need to use 1/3 of this. So, let's say like that much. Okay, so we're gonna put, this is our crust. We're gonna put it in the KitchenAid mixer. There. And I'm gonna use this attachment. Okay, so this is kind of like a wet, sticky, I don't know, it's not a dough, obviously. Alright, so I'll show you what this looks like. So it's like that. That's the dough, that'll be your crust. Okay. And you just push it into the bottom of your pan that you're using. We're gonna use 2 creme brulee dishes because we're not making a full pie because it's just Eric and I. It doesn't say that you need to use any type of grease because there's coconut oil in the crust, so it's naturally going to be lubricated and you'll be able to get it up out of the pan pretty easily when it's done cooking. Use your fingers for this. This pie freezes really well, so you can make this ahead and then freeze it. Of them looks in the creme brulee dish. It's just pressed in. You can see it doesn't all the way go up the sides, but it's pretty close. So, pretty similar to the first pie crust. Next step is going to be turning on the oven and preheating it. After we make the filling, they're just going to go straight in the oven to cook. The recipe says to preheat the oven to 350. We don't need the KitchenAid mixer anymore. So you can put your electric mixer away. Now you actually need a blender for the filling. I know that sounds really weird, but it works really well. The first step with the filling is that you really need to read the recipe before you start on this because the recipe tells you that you have to soak your cashews for 2 hours in boiling water before you can use them. So that's what's in this bowl is cashews that have been soaking all morning. So the filling for the pie takes soaked raw unsalted cashews. It's going to take pure maple syrup. It's going to take coconut sugar, some pumpkin puree, some pumpkin pie spice, some vanilla, and some salt. For the filling, you literally just put all these ingredients in here and you blend it like a smoothie. We've got our raw unsalted cashew halves here. They have soaked for the last 2.5 hours in boiling water. So we're gonna put those in to here, like so. Maple syrup. We need 80 milliliters of pure maple syrup. Make sure you get real maple syrup. Don't get the fake stuff. It's just high fructose corn syrup, like the Aunt Jemima brand and stuff like that. And that's not really maple syrup, and it's too sweet. So make sure you get pure maple syrup. We need some coconut sugar again, just a little over half a tablespoon. This is all the sugar you're putting in it. Doesn't take a ton of sugar, which is nice. The maple syrup acts as a natural sugar, and then you've got coconut sugar. There's only half a tablespoon, so it's really nice. It's not too sweet. Pumpkin puree. Ooh, got something stuck in my hair. Okay, so we need 141 grams of pumpkin puree. So this goes in the blender as well. I use vanilla bean paste. So I don't really know if there's much of a difference, but I haven't really noticed a huge difference for this. So, third of a teaspoon. I really like vanilla, so I'll do like that. A little pinch of salt. Wow, that's way too much. The recipe says to use pumpkin pie spice. You can find that at the store, but we looked at the store and it was sold out because it's the week of Thanksgiving. So we're gonna mix our own. It's really simple. You only need 5 spices. If you bake a lot, you probably already have these. So there's, I think you showed them this, but there's allspice. You're gonna use it ground. We only have whole allspice, so we'll grind this up in the mortar and pestle. Ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg, ground cloves, and ground ginger. Those are the 5 spices you need to make pumpkin pie spice. And the ratios are 4 teaspoons of cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of cloves, 1 teaspoon of ground allspice, 2 teaspoons of ginger, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. We'll put that pumpkin pie spices all in the jar. Just gonna mix it up. About 1 teaspoon of this. Our oven's ready, so we just need to blend this, put it in our 2 pie creme brulee dishes, and bake it. Okay? So we've got a Ninja blender here. The recipe does advise that you use a blender like you would make smoothies or milkshakes in. Okay, so we just whiz this up once. I need to stir it a little so the stuff on the sides blends in, but you see it looks like pumpkin pie filling. That's why you need to use a blender. You're not going to get that with your KitchenAid because it's not going to break up the cashews enough to give you a smooth filling. Put this up here. All right, so we've got our 2 pie crusts here. Okay, so you really have to make sure you blend the filling until all of the cashews are ground up. You can see I still have a full cashew right here that I just dug out of the pie. And this is what it looks like before it goes in the oven. Crust is in there and the filling. Okay? The recipe says that you would normally bake a full-size pie in the oven for 45 to 55 minutes. You're looking for the top of the pie to look kind of puffy, and it's gonna turn like a light golden brown color. You can put a crust shield over your crust to make sure the crust doesn't burn in the oven. So all we have to do is bake them now. So I'll check them after 20 minutes. All right. Okay, all done. Well, for now. We're gonna check on the pumpkin pies. They've been in the oven for 20 minutes. Look, you can see, nope, not done yet. Still, no, not done. So, a little longer. So the pies came out of the oven. They were in there for a total of about 45 minutes. They were puffed up. When I took them out and I set the tray down, they collapsed just a little bit, but that's okay. You can see the cracking there that shows that. There's a little bit brownish on the top. That's what you're looking for in color. And when you touch the top, it shouldn't really stick to your finger. Nothing on my finger. So that means it's done. So now we just let them cool off on the counter for a few minutes. Then I'll stick them in the refrigerator to let them cool even further. And then I will put them in the freezer and freeze them until Thanksgiving Day. You can take them out of the freezer the day that you want to eat them. They don't take too long to defrost.